Hello, my name is Taryn, and thank you for checking out this message from Grace Church San Diego. What causes someone to live with purpose? We mistakenly let money, success in our jobs, our position, and power be the root motivation and driver for our lives. Jesus came to this earth with grace and truth. He brought a new message of truth wrapped in His amazing grace. In this series, we will discuss how grace is the motivation in the life of Jesus' followers. The Grace movement is about being a part of something bigger than ourselves. It's about reaching out and boldly being like Jesus to everyone we encounter. We'd love to hear how Grace Church is affecting your life. So please send an email to info@gracesd.com with your story. Or if you'd like to help support our ministry financially, you can visit the website below so we can continue to help people find Christ and become His mature followers.
Well, my family and I are beach people. We live in Alpine. We live in the country town of San Diego, and we love it there. But before we moved there a year and a half ago, we lived right by the beach. And I remember growing up, if I was not in class, I was at the beach. I ditched a little bit. That's my confession to you. I was a surfer, at least a wannabe surfer. All my friends were better than me, but I loved it. I loved being in the water. I loved just being at the beach, sitting there, and it was fun. And similarly, I grew up on the central coast of California in Pismo Beach, and my wife grew up in Point Pleasant Beach, New Jersey, on the Jersey Shore. So they do beach a little differently out there, I found out when we started dating. They go to the beach in the summer from like 8 a.m. till the sun goes down. And that drove me nuts. I had to acclimate a little bit to being in the sun for that long, but they're serious about their beach. But as we started dating and having kids, dating and getting married and having kids, we wanted our kids to experience, doesn't matter the order, no, I'm just kidding. We wanted our kids to experience the same thing. We wanted our kids to experience a beach lifestyle. And so we started taking our kids to the beach. Even as babies, we would bring the umbrella and leave them there. And no, we wouldn't leave them there, but they would take naps right there on the beach, and we'd have a good time in the sand and in the water and stuff. Well, my middle, I have 3 boys, and the one in the middle, Henry, has this larger-than-life personality. And everything, each reaction, everything is like this big, when in reality it's this big. He's that type of personality. He's a lot of fun, but crazy. And even when he was little, I used to like to take him in the water. We'd go have this game, go put our feet in the water, see how cold it was. So I'd hold on to his wrist, or or his fingers, or his wrist, and he'd do the drunken wobble thing, and he'd get freaked out once he got in the water. He'd want me to pick him up, or he'd scoot back. Well, even now, he's 6 years old. He still loves the water. He still loves the ocean and the beach. He gets so excited. And as time has gone on, the years have passed, he tends to go a little deeper and a little deeper, and gets the waves up to here. And still at 6 years old, he gets freaked out a little bit and says, "Daddy, pick me up, big waves coming." So I pick him up, hold him. He's so cute. And he'll grip onto me, like strangle me, this kid. He's strong. He'll just grip onto my neck and say, "Don't let me go, don't let me go. Henry, I'm not going to let you go. I got you, don't worry about it." He's holding on to me. I realized something. If I just put my hands down and he's holding on to me for dear life, he's strong as a 6-year-old, but he's not that strong. Some of the waves will take him. And that's what he's afraid of. He's afraid of being swept away by the ocean, by the waves. What I noticed and realized was it's not his strength that kept him safe. It's his daddy, it's me that was strong enough, and I keep him straight. I keep him safe every time. He's safe when I hold him. I feel like our faith is a lot like that, and that's what I want to talk about today. I feel like our faith, throughout the years, we're holding on for dear life under our own strength, under our own courage, and just holding on to everything we got. We got to hold on to God. And the whole time, through the ups and downs of life, God is saying, "I'm the one that has you. It's not your grip that keeps you safe, that sustains you. It's my grip on you." Today, I want to talk about faith and what that means to us. I want to talk about, and we're going to talk about a story of bold faith and taking a next step. Because no matter where you're at in your faith journey, all of us have a next step forward in letting faith lead in our life. I want to give you a spoiler alert. I did a very simple outline intentionally. There's 3 steps that I want to talk about. We're going to dive into each one in a little bit, but they're on your outline, and I want you to start thinking about them. 3 steps to let your faith lead and to go deeper and have your faith strengthened. Number 1 is intimacy and connection. 2 is freedom. Freedom from what? We're going to talk about that. And 3 is hope. Well, my name is Scott. Merry Christmas, everybody. How you doing? Good Christmas? Who got socks for Christmas? You want to see some awesome socks? Check that out. Seriously, you can check them out. I'll charge you $5, but you can check them out after. I'm gonna leave that up there for your viewing pleasure. That's a nice sock right there. Sweet socks, man. You know you're getting old when you're excited about socks. Shoot, man, I'm getting old. I don't like toys anymore. Whatever. Merry Christmas, guys. It's a fun time of year. New Year's is approaching next week. My name's Scott. Can I just say I am so honored and humbled to call myself one of the pastors at Grace Church San Diego. It has been such an amazing year as I've been on staff. And, you know, a lot of times I get up here and we banter and make fun of each other, and that's kind of our love language. And in our meetings, we do the same thing. But this is getting weird. Let me put this down. It's a little drafty when I do that. Anyway, I'm so honored and humbled to be a part of this team. This team, we pour into each other and love each other. And I look up to all the staff, not just the pastoral staff. Welcome Online Campus. There's a lot of people joining us online every week. My family's up in the Idlewild Mountains, my mother-in-law's cabin, so they're watching it online. I miss you guys. I'm going to go join them tonight after the last message. But welcome online. If you need a Bible, guys, Grace is a Bible-based church. Raise your hand, and the ushers will give you a Bible. We believe this ancient old book is the inspired Word of God. And if you don't have one at home, take it home. It's our gift to you. And if you don't, you can just leave it on your seat. Feel free to look at the Bible on your smartphone or whatever you got, or Instagram, whatever you want to do. I'm cool with it. Well, we're going to talk about faith today, building a foundation for our faith, taking one step closer to deepening and strengthening our faith through a couple examples of strong faith and bold faith, and letting our faith lead at whatever level you're at in your walk. As I was preparing for this message, I was thinking through it. You know, when we get up here and speak, there's over 1,000, 1,100, 1,200 people that hear our words. It's kind of a daunting, crazy thing to think about. But with that, there's people from all walks of life that hear these words, that come to these services, that enjoy the worship experience and, you know, everything we're doing here at Grace, which is awesome. But people come from different perspectives. Some of you have a different view of faith than I do. Some of you came to faith different than I did or the person next to you. Some of us have been followers of Jesus for a very long time. You know, in the 8 a.m. service, there's people that, I love them. I think they're about 104, and they've been, I'm just kidding, it was a joke. They've been believers like their whole life, and that is awesome. I want that. I don't want to be that old, but I want to be older and have such a strong foundation of faith. For others, we've recently come to faith. I came to faith in Jesus at 13, but some of us have come to faith in the last year, the last month, I don't know. So we're all at these different levels. And at whatever level, we all have a next step forward in letting faith lead. For some of us, we might have a weak faith. We might have a fragile faith, something that could fall apart if something happens. Tragedy strikes, I don't know. Someone says something that offends us. Well, forget organized church. And then therefore it affects your faith. If you're like me, maybe you can relate to me. The way I always was is I have had faith since I was 13, but I kind of held it back here. I kind of dragged it along as I went. And in certain areas of my life, I didn't let it be in the forefront. I didn't speak about it. Work was like that. I was in corporate America trying to climb the corporate ladder, doing data management. How boring is that? I'm just kidding. One of our drummers is in data management. He's like, it's not boring. I know. But I'd be at work and I walk in the office and it just wasn't something I wanted God to speak through me or to lead in that area when I was there. Maybe you can relate to that. Maybe at your workplace or with family, your friends, that's kind of off limits to God. You're not going to let faith or God lead in that area. For all of us, in every situation, this message is for you. in 2016, how are we going to let faith lead more in our lives and in all areas of our life? I want us to consider and think through the fact that God can not only use our faith in some areas of our lives, but in all areas. I was given a definition of faith. Someone here at Grace, I was talking about the message and said, hey, do you have a definition of faith? Are you going to talk about it, like define it? I said, yeah, I have a few definitions I'm working through. I don't know which one I like. I kind of don't like any of them. There was 3 of them I had. He said, well, let me propose one. And I loved it. I fell in love with it. It says, faith is access to God, and discipleship is entrance into his joy. This is 2 parts. But for a lot of us, it's only this part. Faith is access to God. If we're honest, a lot of us have kind of stopped there. We go, yeah, we accept Jesus as Lord and Savior. We're going to heaven. Good. Got that done. I'm done with it. But we're not letting faith lead. We're not falling in line and understanding and living with God's purpose and calling for our life. That's faith leading us. But for the rest of us, and for all of us, what's needed is discipleship as entrance into his joy. Being a Jesus follower, letting his purpose for your life actually call the shots and lead where you're at and what you're doing and what you're saying. Discipleship is entrance into his joy, and then therefore your fulfillment, your purpose for your life. Faith is access to God. Discipleship is entrance into his joy. Our faith means nothing if we don't have access to God. That is where it starts, but it doesn't stop there. We must find the way, our next step, to let faith lead. Well, what does your faith journey look like? I want for a second for you just to think through in the quietness of your own mind and heart of the strength. Examine the strength of your faith. How strong is it? Can it be broken? Can it fall off the cliff if something happens? Where are you at? What does your faith journey look like? Are there things in the past that church did, that person said, that is contributing to something holding you back from moving forward in your faith in God? What would that be? Think through that for a minute. My faith has had its own ups and downs. Last month marks 1 year of being in full-time ministry here at Grace. I never thought I would be in full-time ministry, let alone standing in front of you. I never would have thought that. But I understood and bought into and accepted God's calling and purpose in my life. And I said yes, made myself available. Analyze where you're at in your faith journey. So I want to look at an example in Joshua. It's Joshua 10, I believe it's 127 in the House Bible if you have it. Now, I wish I had time to go through the book or go through a bigger piece of text here, but we're going to look at only a few verses. But let me give you some context. Joshua is a daunting book. The book of Joshua describes military triumph of God's people through faith and obedience. It doesn't look like a lot of other military stories or, movies or Saving Private Ryan or, whatever. It doesn't look at like the combative or the logistical parts of what's going on in this book. This book is a series of battles, but it's really about Joshua and his connection with God and how he's letting God lead him and his faith, even with questions and doubts and fear, he is moving forward in his faith. It's an amazing testimony and example of strong and bold faith. Now, Joshua, this is what's kind of happening. They're going from town to town, and remember who he is. Joshua is the dude that was an assistant to Moses. The story of Moses leading the Israelites out into the Promised Land, parting the Red Sea, that whole thing. Well, as Moses died, his assistant, God said, hey, you're my dude. Joshua, you're my guy. You're going to lead the people now. You're going to be the commander of the army, and all the rebellious people groups that you're going to come alongside, you're going to fight, win the battle, and get the people to where I promised. That's what Joshua is doing here. And you notice along the way the connection him and God have, even through his fear, his doubt. So Joshua is in a certain area and is winning a battle. This is the scene that we're about to dive into. He's winning a battle with the Amorites. And as he's winning, things are going great. I mean, God is delivering victory to him. He's really fighting alongside Joshua. As he's winning this particular battle, he's noticing something. The sun is going down. The day is going to be gone. It's going to be nightfall, and the rest of the enemy is going to get away. So Joshua is a pretty bold, crazy dude in what he's about to do. Let's read it. At the time Joshua spoke to the Lord, he's praying to God. In the day when the Lord gave the Amorites over the sons of Israel, it's really the Lord doing it. And Joshua prays this prayer. He prays to God, sun, stand still at Gibeon, and the moon in the valley of Ajalon. And the sun stood still and the moon stopped. Like, seriously? See what happens here. Joshua looked up at the sun and said, hey, stay right there. I don't want nightfall to come and the enemy to get away. His motivation was God's glory. He wants everyone to see God's glory. He prays for the sun to stand still and the moon, hey, stay over there. That's pretty crazy. I mean, if I look up at this light and go blind because it's piercing my face, if I look up at it and I say, hey, light, go off, the only way that's going to happen is if someone at the tech booth turns that switch off, right? Now I'm blind. I can't see anybody. But if you were to see me out in the street and praying to God for the sun to stay where it is, you check me in at the mental hospital down the street. This is a crazy, miraculous thing. Sun, stand still. Moon, stay where you are. And what happened? The sun stood still. The moon stopped. You're like, well, I don't know, Scott. Scientifically, that can't even happen. No, you're right. It can't. It's a miracle. It's a complete miracle. You understand the natural disasters that would happen if the sun stood still? Actually, so the earth stopped rotating, that whole thing. If all that happened, it's an absolute miracle. It is impossible, except for the one who created it all. What a crazy prayer. He just finishes and says, he said in the sight of Israel until the nation took vengeance on the enemies, he was victorious in his battle. He won the battle. The sun stood still, the moon stayed over there for what would have been a complete 24 hours almost. That's what it says, almost a full day. It is a crazy prayer. This guy, Joshua, here's the thing about him. He was an average dude. He was an average guy with average faith. But he accepted God's purpose and his calling. He was an assistant to Moses. And he said, okay, you want me to step up? Okay, I'll step into my purpose. I'll step into my calling. And he moved forward. He moved forward. There's a couple applications here in the text that I want to look at. Number one is when we believe in God's purpose, our faith will ignite miraculous things. It may not be the sun standing still. You may go out this evening and say, hey, moon, can you just hang tight right there? I want to do something. God may not have that happen with you. But a miraculous thing for you may look a little different. It may look like a relationship being mended, someone receiving your apology. It may look like that anger and bitterness, you letting it go, or someone forgiving you, or you forgiving yourself. That may be your miraculous thing. Second application, we should focus on God and his purpose rather than the outcome. As dynamic and miraculous and crazy as the sun standing still, the outcome is irrelevant to what Joshua was doing. His whole motivation wasn't for his own glory. He's not saying, I want everybody to see me defeat the Amorites. God, can you make this happen? It was for God's glory. The outcome was irrelevant. The fact that that actually happened, that God created that miracle and made the sun stand still and the moon hang tight over there, is the outcome, and it's irrelevant. He understood his purpose, his calling, and he wanted to move forward in his faith. He wanted to let faith lead. The outcome is irrelevant. Third application, God will do whatever is necessary to fulfill his purpose in our lives. Anything and everything necessary. He'll even defy nature. We see it. He can do anything and everything to fulfill his purpose in our lives. Do you believe it? Joshua was a stud. He wasn't unique. He wasn't extraordinary. He was ordinary, but he did extraordinary things because he fell in line with God's purpose and calling into his life. What he did was unique in that he lived his purpose, God's purpose for him. I want to look at 3 steps to deepen our faith, as I mentioned earlier. You know, this time of year is fun. Christmas is awesome. I love Christmas. My Christmas tree's dead. It's so dead right now. I've watered it, I think, twice. Sorry, honey. I have lied to you. Have you watered the tree? Yeah, I totally watered it. It's so dead. Everything's hanging, whatever. It's a fun time of year, you know. There's a lot going on. We're all busy. It's crazy. New Year's is this coming week. But this time of year lends itself to thinking forward. It lends itself to talking about these things we call resolutions. I hate that word. I have kind of an attitude about resolutions. Don't get offended. Have your resolutions. I like sustainable goals, though, so I don't cancel my membership in February. But I want to look at this year and then look forward and say, okay, God, what do you have for me this next year? How will I deepen my faith in you? How will I let you lead instead of me dragging my faith behind me? In what area am I not allowing you in? I'm not allowing you to speak into this certain area of my life. My anger, my sin, whatever. I'm saying, no, that's for me. No, every area is for the Lord. God can use your faith in every circle of influence, every area into your life. What aren't you letting God into? It's holding you back from a deeper and strengthened faith. In 2016, will this be the year you take that step forward that you've been waiting for? The first step into this process of deepening our faith is intimacy. You notice along the way with Joshua, he was in constant communication with God. He was in constant connection and intimacy with the Father. I've noticed something. You know, I've been married for 7 years. A lot of people here have been married for a lot more. But intimacy in marriage, it doesn't stop getting deeper if you let it. It can be strengthened and deepened years and years to come. We have a couple that come here to Grace that I think like 5-6 years ago, they were in between their 15th and 20th year, I can't remember, and they were celebrating their anniversary and went on a trip to the East Coast, and they had a challenge for themselves to find out 10 new things about each other. Like, that's kind of crazy to me. I've been married 7 years. I know everything about my wife. Maybe, I don't know. But imagine that. Imagine being married for 20 years and finding out 10 new, maybe small things, big things, I don't know, 10 new things about each other. Imagine the connection and intimacy that would create. Intimacy can grow and grow forever. Are you intimate with God? Are you connecting with Him? Are you communicating with Him? Pastor Tim likes to say a hint from Uncle Tim. Is that what he says? Uncle Tim. Well, I'll give you a hint from stepson Scott. I love the way that sounds, by the way. Stepson Scott. Here's a tip from stepson Scott. Intimacy with God starts in the morning. It doesn't start at noon. It doesn't start at 1. It can if you didn't, but the perspective is lost. Someone taught me that a long time ago. Start early in the morning. When you get up in the morning, spend time with Jesus. It will shape your entire day. Intimacy, that connection Joshua had the whole time. It was only because of that intimacy he was able to pray a crazy prayer like that. If he didn't have that, he couldn't pray that. Intimacy. The first step in a deepening your faith and letting faith lead. Second one is freedom. Freedom from what? The answer to that question is different for each of us. We all have things holding us back. We all have things that are keeping us from taking that next step in our faith. And I don't know if God can do it. We're doubting. Or, you know, I just don't know that I can get past this issue, something that happened to me or something I did. I can't get past it. I can't forgive myself. I have an addiction. I can't get over that. It is what it is. We don't have freedom from it. It's holding us. Maybe it's anger and bitterness or resentment. That's holding you back. Most of the time, it's us that we need to be free from. Usually, it's rooted in fear. I am the most unqualified pastor there probably is. You're like, we know. We've heard you. It's true. I'm unqualified for what I do. But I love it. Sometimes I'm dumb and inappropriate, and you love me still, so I love you. We have this mutual thing going on, so that's good. I'm so unqualified. You know, I used to be terrified to public speak. So terrified. I'm like, I don't know, if there's 5 or more people, I'm out. I'll sit in the back. I'm speaking over to 1,000 people today, to you guys. That's not confidence in myself. I'm stepping into my faith. I'm letting faith in God lead my calling and my purpose. It's about Him, not about me or my fear. Now I'm intimidated. I'm going to walk away. You come up and say something. No, I don't, maybe I don't care what people think of me anymore. I don't know. No, God has a purpose for me. God has a purpose for you. You have no idea what he can do. He can easily turn what you think is ordinary into extraordinary. He can use your faith, if you let faith lead, to do extraordinary, amazing, miraculous things. It looks different for each of us. For Joshua, you think this guy didn't have fear? Look what God says to him in the beginning of the book. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. You notice he's not patting him on the butt and saying, you can do it. I believe in you. No, it's a commandment. It's a commandment. Be strong and courageous. I'm commanded to get up here and say something. I'm going to be strong and courageous because I believe in him, not my own ability. What does that look like for you? In your avenue and in your faith, are you letting faith lead? Why should you be strong and courageous? Why? Because he's with us. He was with Joshua the entire time. The entire time he was with us. The last one is hope. Pastor Tim spoke on hope not too long ago, and he said that hope looks forward, and it's so true. It doesn't look back. It doesn't look at that thing that is holding us back, that mistake we made. That's not what hope is. Hope is always looking ahead, looking in the future. You notice these things have built upon each other, right? Intimacy, connection with God, and then freedom from the things holding us back. If we go step one, step two, then we are free to look forward into God's purpose and plan and calling for our lives. We're free to let faith lead and to let God lead in every area of our life, not just the ones that feel comfortable. They build upon each other. When we believe in God's purpose for our lives, our faith ignites miracles. Miraculous things happen. Well, I am a big, big martial arts fan. Anybody? A few of us. I'm a huge martial arts fan. Since I was 7 years old, my best friend was doing soccer and judo, and my grandpa was like, which one you want to do? You can do one of those. I said, I'll do both. So I did judo and soccer, but judo, I stayed with judo, and then I got into karate and kickboxing and boxing and all these things, and 20 plus years, and I've loved it. I love it. I love MMA. I'm a huge MMA fan. I know it's not for everybody, but I'm obsessed with it. My wife always teased me and said, you need to let your glory days go. I'm like, no, I'm holding on. I can do it still. No, I can't. I got a bad hip. Whatever. Well, I used to watch this guy on Spike TV, on Bellator MMA. It's kind of like the UFC. And I used to watch him on YouTube and on Spike, on TV. And he just struck me as like, I can look at the technical aspects of fighting. It's not just brutal. There's actually, it's like a chess game and the technique behind it. And I always was impressed by this guy. Well, one day I met him right outside of Grace. His name is Michael Chandler, and he comes here to Grace. He's a former Bellator MMA champion. And this guy is, I mean, in that world, he's up here. He's, all the media, and he's a celebrity in that world. And he's the most humble, honest, amazing guy of faith. One of the most amazing guys I've ever met. Him and his wife, Bree, are just awesome, and they're rooted in their faith in Jesus. Recently, I sat down with them both, and I did a little interview with them, and I'd love for you to watch this video real quick.
I went 3 years basically undefeated, finishing 10 out of my first 12 opponents. I was a Bellator lightweight champion, ranked top 3, top 5 in the world. And that's why you get into the sport, to have success. That's why we all do what we do. We want to have success. We want to achieve. We want to, be put on. For me, it was to be put on a platform to reach people, and I was doing that. And then I hit a nice little rough patch.
For the new and now two-time Bellator.
I had a dry spell of 668 days where I lost 3 fights in a row, fell out of the rankings.
Just to watch the struggle, it was heartbreaking. I could tear up right now thinking about it.
I always kept that notion knowing that God didn't bring me this far to leave me and abandon me.
Watching him when he was the one actually experiencing it all, watching someone like that keep his faith and live a life of such integrity was encouraging for my own faith.
As we all know as Christians, it's not all sunshine and rainbows after you give your life to Christ. There's going to be tough times, there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, but through it all, you're one of God's children and you are absolutely blessed. Scott, she hit me. When the flood comes and the earth is shaking and it feels like the world is crumbling around you and you see your career that was flourishing and you see how big it was and how successful it was, and all of a sudden it gets shrunken down into this shell of what it was. But you still have that faith and you still know that God's got you right in the palm of his hand and he continues to bless you. And here I sit here, you know, I'm not the champion anymore and I have 3 losses on my record, but my career is 10 times better than it was back when I was champion.
A lightning strike title defense for Michael Chandler.
I've just been overcome, especially in the last few months, just with this gratitude, I guess you could say. I'm almost overwhelmed by it, and it's definitely been a gift that God has given me, and I'm so thankful for, but it's definitely been an emotional several years since going through the valley. But my faith has it's changed, it's gotten stronger. It's still being challenged every day through his career, especially because it's definitely a different one.
If you can hold on for long enough, if you can keep that faith and stay steadfast and stay immovable and just continue to rest in God's promises. God's promises have never, ever, ever changed. It's up to you whether or not you believe. Bop, bop, boom. Yeah, she got it. It doesn't matter if you're a fighter. It doesn't matter if you're a mom or a father or a teacher or you know, whatever. We're all going to go through hard times. It's just keeping that faith and just remembering and resting in the fact that God's got you right in the palm of his hand no matter what.
No, awesome, amazing guy. You know, we got in an argument after, so I had knocked him out. Just kidding. Michael, don't hurt me. They're back home in Missouri watching online, and he actually texted me earlier. He said, you're on my hit list. Shoot, man, shoot. I love him, don't hurt me. What an amazing example. I mean, this guy was all the way up here, the upper echelon, and he still is. But imagine being a champion like that. For years, this guy was undefeated, and then losing that platform, or so to speak, you know, what you think you've lost it. He's the media and the fans have responded to his response to losing it because he did it in style. He's like, I love the Lord. Every time he wins, he gives it up. He talks about Jesus. It's such an amazing example of faith. Just like Joshua, Michael isn't any different than us. Joshua's no different than us. They're as ordinary as we are. You're like, thanks. But God can use us for extraordinary, miraculous things if we would let faith lead. We all come from different places and are in different situations and levels of faith in our life. Maybe you're a teacher or, you know, whatever, and you're putting together your lessons and decorating your classroom and you're bored with it. That's ordinary, maybe. What's extraordinary is having this little kid with no mommy and daddy and you just pouring into him and loving him. That's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. Maybe you have a husband or a wife and you have some kids at home, but you kind of don't like them sometimes. And your life is passing you by and you're like, how did I end up here? That's ordinary. Until one day your kid accepts Jesus as their Lord and Savior because you've spoke it into their life. That's extraordinary. We all have steps forward. We all have the ability to let faith lead and to let God do miraculous things through us, just like Joshua in praying that the sun would stand still. An amazing, bold prayer. What is your bold step in 2016? You know, here at Grace, part of we're talking about this grace movement. It's such us reaching out, East County, and whatever we're doing, we're letting faith lead. That's what we're doing. All the technical and logistical aspects of what we're doing is irrelevant to the fact that we're responding to God's purpose and calling into our lives and our church as a community and family. Will you be on board with it individually? I'm amazed at what God can do. For months, my little Henry, same boy, my 6-year-old, for months he's been asking these questions. He said, Daddy, why do you work at a church? Daddy, why are you praying with me at night? Every night we talk and you pray. And every morning I have this routine. My wife goes to work early and I'm able to get my boys ready, get them dressed, make them breakfast, pack their lunches, it's a little crazy sometimes. But I put on worship music every morning, every single morning on my little Bose. And they'll sit there and have breakfast, and I'll put together their lunches while they do, and we'll talk. But we'll have worship music on, and it says, Daddy, why do you put on God songs? All the time, God songs. Sometimes he rolls his eyes, sometimes he really likes it. And then we get in the car and say, Daddy, another God song? Listen, I love it. I love the perspective I get when I'm focused on the Lord in the morning. And I've spoken that into him. And last month, I laid down with him in his bed, and we were chatting like we do every night. And we started praying, and we prayed for him to accept Jesus, and he did. The morning routine is ordinary. Him accepting Jesus is extraordinary. God can do anything through our faith. Anything through our faith. Even bring a messed up person like this to come and speak these words to you. It's not about the words, our doubts, our questions, our fears. So many times they're as empty as the tomb Jesus rose from. What will you do in 2016 to let your faith lead? Let's pray.